everybody. Welcome, welcome. I'm going to wait for a few people to come on. And tonight we are going to be doing the plank wood grain tumbler. And I'll go through the steps with you on how we do that. And I'm going to wait a few minutes and let some people come on. And it's just now 9 o'clock. And that's when we're starting. So I'm going to wait just a few minutes and see if I can get my computer pulled up so I can see some comments. And remember, I always, if I cannot answer your comments while the live is going on, I will go back and answer your comments after I get off the live or either sometime tomorrow. But this is an easy cut to do, and the steps that you go through, I've done several and I've learned the steps. It's easier for me to make it work better. And it's another one of the cups that you can stop midstream if you need to and go back to it the next day. So it's one that I think you'll enjoy doing. And you can use it for Father's Day, you can use it for birthdays, you can use it for sports, you can use it for just about any quote or initials or monograms or anything that you want to put on it. So it's a good manly cup, and a lot of women would like this cup too, I think. A lot of sports, women that love sports and camping and staying out in cabin, that kind of thing. But this is the tumbler that we'll be doing, and I'll explain to you the steps. You can see the planks are going around the cup, and you can see the wood grain in it and the different colors. No planks are the same color. The textures are not the same. So it is a little bit different than some of the ones that we do. So let me see if I can get us pulled up on here. Give me just a minute. With the delay, it takes just a little bit for it to come up so I can see any comments that's coming up. Okay, here we go. Okay, now we're on there. Okay, the first step that I do when I do one of these, of course I prep my cup and I paint it white, and I use the primer, paint and primer combined. This is not the particular one, but I use the Rust-Oleum 2X paint and primer, and I use a flat white. So I'm going to take the camera down so I can show you the process of how I get it ready before I start doing the wood grain. Let's see if we can get it. Okay. Now, as you can see, I tape off the bottom and the top of my cups. And when I do mine, I use electrical tape. Electrical tape will, it stretches around the cup, where if you're using painter's tape or something like that, where the cup is larger and then it gets smaller, you'll have wrinkles in your tape, and when you do that, the paint gets up under where the wrinkles are in your tape. So always try to start by cutting your tape straight across and have a straight end to work with. And when I begin mine, I start at the top, and I have my tape where there's just a little bit of white showing. If you can see that, this is where I've got it. Up here is where I've got it taped off, but there's just a little bit of white showing right there. And I do that all the way around the cup. And I'm not going to do this whole cup for y'all to have to sit here and watch me tape off a cup. I would not do that to you. I try to do these so that I can show you the process, but you not have to wait so long. And now when I overlap it, I mash that together so that I can see the seam. And then I take my X-Acto knife and I cut just almost up to the seam. And then it leaves a line here. And then when I start the next one, I just go randomly somewhere else around the cup and start. And I leave the white line in between. And you'll be surprised how easy it is to just sort of eyeball it and get it almost perfect as you're going around it. Makes it a lot easier to do it this way than having to measure it and tape it and cut it. Okay, there we are again at the end. use the X-Acto knife and cut it. I didn't cut that one quite enough. But you always want to have just a little bit of a crack in between. And I'll do one more, and then I'll tell you the next step. Let's go a little bit further around. But you want to jagger where they meet all the way around the cup so that none of the seams are the same. You don't want them to be the same. These seams where your planks meet, where you wrap them around the cup, you want them to be different all the way around. So right there's the next one, but we're going to go past it. And then when we get to the next one, going to mash it down, and then with our X-Acto knife, we're going to cut it again. Okay, and you've got a line on that one. But that's basically what you do all the way around. And once you get all the way down to the bottom of the cup, then you're going to take your spray paint. And I use, this is nutmeg, and it's a matte finish. And you want to lightly spray it all the way around where all of these lines are, top to bottom. And then let that dry, then go back and lightly spray it again. And do that about 3 times. Don't try to do it heavy, because if you try to do it heavy, then you're really going to mess it up. Then it's going to bleed through where your tape is, and you don't want it to bleed through. So that's the process of doing that. And once you do it, then you go back and you pull all of your tape off. And when you pull your tape off, then it's going to look like this. And you're going to have your lines there. And I tried doing this and doing it with the ink, but I found when I did that, then when I started doing my wood grain, it would rub my lines off for my planks. Where if I do it with the paint, then the lines stay intact. Now I will go back, you can see right in here, I think maybe, I don't know if you can see it or not, where the lines are, I put nail heads at each one, 2 on each side. And I do go back after I finish the wood grain and touch those places up so that they'll show a little bit better. And sometimes, depending on what color the wood grain is, I'll go back and I may go in with a little bit darker paint to do the nail holes. But you can see where I've already put them on there in these places on this one. And there is a little bit of a line here that's painted that you can't really tell too good, because I've got the tape at the top where I tape it off and at the bottom where I tape it off. But now we're going to go into doing the actual wood grain. And when I do the wood grain, I always wear gloves because the ink will stain your hands. So, and you can get it off, but it's just not easy to get off. And when you can wear gloves and not have to worry about it, wear gloves. And I wear the same pair over and over until they wear out, where they get holes in them. And then I'll go back and get another pair and start wearing them, or replace them one at a time. But I have a cup with alcohol in it, and I use that if I need to lighten something or clean it up. And then when I'm spraying to retouch up the nail heads, don't put that paint in a cup like this. If you put it in a cup like this, it'll eat a hole in the bottom. You want to put it in glass or put it in a hard plastic container like this. That's just a tip I learned the hard way. Okay, now we're going to start, and the colors that I used for this, I used a latte. This is Tim Holtz, and I also used butterscotch, and I used espresso. Those are the 3 colors that I use, so that the planks would be a little bit different color. And you want to try to do it to where when you're doing it, just try to dab just a little bit on there. Now, like some of these, the holes are bigger in them, and when they are, then it does make a mess. I'm going to try to keep this where you can see it. But when you start rubbing it, if you'll notice, then if you get your plank, then you keep rubbing, then you're going to get a little bit of the wood grain to start forming. And you don't want to do a lot at the time. And this brush that I'm using for this, it's the same kind of fiber as the brush I use for my regular wood grain, which is a chop type brush, except it's shaped different. You can see the difference in the shape. I use this if I'm doing a full cup, and I use this one when I'm making just the planks. And when you're doing it, you have to be patient and just work with it and work with it and work with it. And then you can start seeing as the lines start forming, to make the different textures in the wood. I know this afternoon I was looking at my hardwood floor upstairs. I should have made a picture of it and brought it so we could look at it and compare the different planks in it. If you've got hardwood, you know what I'm talking about, and if you don't, then you can pull up a picture on Google and look at hardwood. And I'm by this like I am when I'm doing a beach tumbler. I like to sort of have something that I've focused on to come up with what I'm looking for in my mind for the design. And it's okay not to get it just like you want it the first round, because you do keep going around until you get the texture that you want in the wood. And as you can see here, it's starting to form. You can see the different textures where they're starting to form. And we'll keep doing that all the way around. And I just looked over and my computer has gone offline, so right now I can't see any comments at all. I'm sorry. In a few minutes I'll see if we can get it to pop back up. But doing this, you have to have patience, and you have to be willing just to work a little bit at a time. And like I said, this cup right now, if I wanted to, I could stop, go back upstairs, stay up there, and come back sometime tomorrow and work on it. But you can see how the different textures in the wood are starting to form. Let's see if I can get my comments to come up. Y'all give me just a minute. I don't know why my computer won't stay online. My phone does. But my computer, for some reason, wants to hop on and off all the time. Off the internet. Okay. Now maybe you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. And I do one plank around at a time till I get it looking pretty much like I want it. And then I'll go back and do the next line, because I don't want them all the same color. I use different colors when I'm doing this. Now when I'm doing a regular wood grain, most of the time I just use espresso. And as I layer it, then that's what makes the wood darker and lighter. But with this type cup, I don't do as much layering as I do when I'm doing an actual wood grain, the whole cup in a wood grain, where the wood grain goes top to bottom instead of sideways on the cup. Now you can see those textures in the wood. And I am in the process now of, I don't know a lot about computers. I don't know a lot about Facebook. I don't know a lot about how to do all this. So I'm having to get my granddaughter to help me and my son to help me so I can learn a little to try to do the things that I want to do. And I do want to start a private group for us to use to do tutorials on. And my Facebook page is U Style Designs, and that's my business page. And with it, I want to have a group tied to it, and the group name will be U Style Design Time. So once I get that launched and start to do it, well, then I'll let everybody know, and as long as Rick will let me, I'll still be doing lives on this page. And then we'll do some on that page. Of course, I'm saving all the ones that I do here to that page, that group. Let's see the designs. And I don't know how many of you are going to do Kelly's class. I'm real excited about her class. I listened tonight when she did her live at 7. And I'm real interested in getting in the class and downloading it and see what I can learn. She may answer a lot of questions that I need answering about how to do the groups. And I know I've watched some groups where they'll have, I forget what they call them now, trolls maybe, that come in and act ugly just for meanness in a group. And that's something I'd like to try to stay away from. I know the main thing with it is having your friends and people that join to please not share it with anybody except people that you know, that you can trust, that might be interested in seeing cups made or buying cups. But this is, I found, very addictive when you get into making cups. It's something that I really enjoy doing. I wish it was something that I had found out about a long time ago. Of course, I retired from mortgage banking in 2014. And before that, I had worked for a lot of years. And that was something I enjoyed doing too. But this is something that's relaxing, and I really enjoy it. And as you can see, the textures in the wood, how they're starting to form. And if you'll notice, as you keep pulling that, you can pull different layers of wood and get it the way you want it. And we will go around it again after we do the other two. And we'll do those in different colors so that you can see how the different colors of ink. I'm sorry, I put that on Do Not Disturb before, and I forgot to tonight. But these textures, you can see how it's forming as we go around. And this one you're going to pull both ways. And when it meets, you have to work with it to get it to where it looks right, where it overlaps. Because when you start pulling it, it gets a little bit lighter. So you have to work with it to try to get that texture in there so that you have a layer all the way around. And just keep pulling on it, and you can see that form as you pull it. Okay, we're going to start with that color. And now we'll go with the espresso. And as you can see, it's a good bit darker when you first put it on the cup. And as you keep pulling it, you see those textures start to form. You just have to take your time, and you do it pretty light-handed. You don't want to put a lot of pressure on your hand when you're doing it, because if you do, then you pull your ink and mess up what work you've already done. So I'm not putting a lot of weight on my brush as I'm doing this. I'm just pulling it and stroking it just easily with my hand. And some of these Tim Holtz, I don't know why, some of them when you put the drop on, it's just right every time. And then some of them, it's like it just pours on. And if you get a lot, it's hard to go back and try to correct where it runs down the cup. And that's why it's better to take your time and try to put just a little bit at the time on your cup. And I cannot look at the comments while I'm doing this. I'm sorry. And I don't have anybody that's here to read the questions for me, so I will go back later and answer any questions, and either tonight or tomorrow, or as you add questions. Pull on it, you start getting that texture in there. Just remember to take your time. And just do a little bit at the time. See where those textures are building up as we're going. And if you will, comment on the lighting. If you can't see well what I'm doing, you'll have to comment and let me know. And then I'll try to correct it the next time before I do a live. And it's amazing the difference when you get the epoxy on these, how beautiful they are. I don't know if all of you saw the one that I posted, and of course it sold right away for Father's Day. The others I had done like that were just fishing tumblers for birthdays or Christmas presents. But I thought that one for Father's Day turned out really cool. And doing it this way, you do get an idea of how it's done without having to go through the whole process and spend an hour or two with me showing you how to do this. And the good thing, you can go back and look at the saved live on it so that you can look at it again if you need to. See how we're going to keep on. We're going to get us a texture right there. Okay. If you look around, you can see the texture on it. And a lot of those planks look just like the ones on my hardwood floor. Okay, now we're going to do butterscotch. Butterscotch is a little bit different color. It's got more of a reddish color to it. And just keep working with it. If you keep working with it, you can see how those different layers build. And the color of the ink changes too after it dries completely, I found. And this I will, before I put the epoxy on it, I use a clear, I'll have to look it up and see what it is. It's not Rust-Oleum, it's more of a lacquer that I spray them with. I found that, let me get that tape off of that. I found that if some you use, it turns green, and you certainly don't want, after you've spent all the time working on your cup, for it to turn green. And one thing you'll find too, if it starts drying on there before you put another drop on it, it'll look like it's going to leave a really, really light spot. But when you keep working with it and layering it, you can see how you can go in and correct it. And we're going to pull this in some to make us another texture. If you'll watch, you can see how when you keep pulling on it, those textures start coming in. And you want to do just a little bit of time. Don't get in a hurry. Better to take your time than to have to go back and redo the whole thing. But one good thing about working with alcohol ink, most of the time you can go back in with just alcohol and clean a spot up and start over. I do know with some base paints that you use, it's not as easy to start over as it is with some other base paints. And some of the colors of ink don't clean up as well off of a white base if you have to go back in and start over. But you learn that as you work with cups. The do's and the don'ts is what I call it, and I suggest that you get you a notepad or a notebook or something and write everything down. And something that I've found that's very helpful is when you make a cup, keep an index card. Like I've got an index card on this cup that I'm working on now. And when I make a cup, I make notes on that index cards of the color that I use for the base, the colors I use for the inks, the colors I use if I'm using glitter or paints or anything that I'm doing, because that way you can always go back to it. You may have somebody that sees that cup on your Facebook page or your website or wherever you advertise. Another customer may see somebody's cup that you've done and want you to make one as close to that one as you can for them. And that way you've got something to go back to. I always put what I name the cup to be. And this one, I call it a plank wood grain. And I will on the back put the customer's name that I made it for and the date. And that way it makes it easier where you can go back and sort of remember what you did on that cup. Because you think you will, but you make so many different ones all along that you don't always remember what you did. Or I don't. Maybe it's just because I'm older that I don't remember. That may be it. I don't know. I'm finding with age that does affect you. Your memory's not as sharp as it once was. Of course, a lot of things aren't. Your eyesight's not either. Okay, well, you can see we're building the texture on that color. And two, I know I said this on some of the other lives that I've done, it's worth the money for you to invest in an apron and wear it anytime you're working on cups. I have personally ruined enough clothes till I can tell you it's worth putting the money into an apron to cover up. I know a lot of times I'll think, well, I'm just going to run downstairs and put a quick coat of epoxy on a cup before we leave to go somewhere. And inevitably, that's when I drop it on my pants or get it on my sleeve or do something. And I know better. So I've got to where now I just keep my apron hanging on my chair to remind me to always put it on. And be careful with your hair too. It's so easy to get this in your hair. I keep my hair pulled back or either up most all the time, especially when I'm working on cups. Like I said, when you get here where you're joining the two, where you started with where you ended, you have to work with that spot a little bit. Okay. You can see those totally, three different colors of ink are totally different. And the texture. And then you can see the texture of the whole cup. And I think it looks more authentic if you have your wood grain different colors. I know my hardwood floor, none of the planks are the same. But anyway, that's basically it. But give me just a minute, I'll go back here and see the spray that I put on mine so I can show it to you. Okay. This is probably backwards for you, but it's crystal clear lacquer. And it's, the make is WATCO, Watco. But I put that on mine just very lightly, and I've never had it to turn them green. So that's what I use on mine when I'm doing a wood grain. And this one, tomorrow morning, I can spray it lightly with the lacquer and then wait about 30 minutes and then put a coat of epoxy on it. And then after that coat of epoxy cures, then I can go in and put whatever decal I want to put on it. So this one, after I put the epoxy on it, I will post it so that everybody can see how it turned out. And I hope you enjoyed it. Didn't take too long. Thank you, and I'll announce another one for next week. I think next week somebody had mentioned that they wanted to do an angry sea and an angry sky. Stormy sea, stormy sky, whichever way you want to call it. That's what we'll be doing next time. So y'all have a good evening. Thank you.